It's the 7th of March 2018. Today we're at Derbyshire County Cricket Club, and my name is David Jenkins, and I'm talking to
Tom Poynton.
Thanks very much for your time, Tom. We wanted to move on now to, unfortunately your career was cut short by an accident, and I wondered if you could explain the impact that that's had.
Yes, obviously it was a unique tragedy. The 4th of April sort of changed my not only sort of my life, but my family's life and everything about me as a person, quite probably. It was on the day we'd announced the team that was going to start the first championship game. At the time, myself, Richard Johnson were sort of vying for the keeping position. So it had been a big battle up until that point. And actually, I found out that I hadn't been selected, so it was pretty disappointing. And from there, went to obviously see my parents, and we were going to discuss that. You know, drove off the drive, and you know, about 5 minutes later, you know, my world changed with the accident. So obviously, to deal with the tragedy and the effect that it had, I can remember just sitting in the living room and it being on Sky Sports News and trying to take in the surreal things that were happening at that period of time. Obviously, the Jamie Pipe and the sports doc, who I will be forever grateful for, you know, honestly from the bottom of my heart, came in to assess the injuries that I had, and I obviously injured my ankle. We didn't know what had happened at that point in time to my ankle. It was very, very swollen, and we just thought, let's let the swelling go down and we'll assess it from there, basically. So once the swelling had gone down, I went to have an MRI scan on it and see what the damage was. And I can remember walking into to see Tim Clough, who was a specialist who did my operation, on the anticipation that I was thinking that I could get back to play, perhaps in 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. But it was, I can remember sitting down and he sort of said, yeah, you know, we're looking at 6 to 9 months, not weeks. And that was, it's the sort of one of the things where you're sitting there and somebody's telling you something, and it's just, you're not looking, you're just looking out and you're trying to contemplate what he's just said. And I came out of it, got in the car, and thought, God, that's me for the season. I'm going to be in for an operation on I think it was May time, the 15th of May or something like that. And the injury I had is basically I cleaned all the cartilage out of my right ankle, and I had some significant soft tissue damage to all sort of the ligaments and stuff in my ankle. So it was a big injury. And actually only latterly, when I went into the final sort of meeting that I had with the sports doc, did he let on, I think, the severity of which, you know, they thought of the injury at the time. And I could just see from his face. So fast forward to 2016 when that was the case. I walked in and Roger Hawkes, and before I'd even sat down, I could just see it. And he sort of said to me, you know what, we weren't even sure whether you were going to walk properly again, you know, let alone get back to playing or play 18 months or however many games that I did end up playing. But I think cricket, after the accident, the support network that Derbyshire offered me was beyond, you know, so I will again be forever grateful. You know, Simon, Tom Oldcroft, and it's just, you know, individuals that really came to light when I was in strife and the family was in strife, and you know, chairman at the time, Chris Grant, and yeah, so, but it helped give me direction. It really did help give me direction to A, get back fit, and then B, I decided obviously to take a role up with the club to try and make use of the time, and it just helped fill my time. It helped give me some routine, you know, and it was a great experience for me. I got some experience away from cricket. I thought, you know, it's a big thing, the personal development side of things for cricketers after cricket, to get that sort of experience in the middle of my career, make use of it, sort of piggyback off it a little bit to try and open lots of opportunities up for me. And that experience snowballed into lots of different things, both positively for me and the club.
So you started to do those before you then came back? Yeah,
so I was in here, first time on crutches. Tom Oldcroft picked me up about 6:30 every morning. Bless him, he drove from his house. Picked me up in South Derbyshire, where I was stopping at my mother's at the time, and drove me in. I was walking around here on crutches, plunked myself down on a desk, and took it from there, really, from from a personal development side of things, but also how it was probably helping me just keep taking little steps to keep my days going, keep my thoughts positive and things like that. And it snowballed into something great with lots of different projects, and I'm really proud of the work that I did with those guys, and yeah, it was a great rounding experience for me, because I think I had obviously perspective is key really in cricket. I had a life and death perspective which changed me as a person, but a career perspective to say, you know what, to go out there and play week in, week out is very, very special and unique thing that not many people have the opportunity to do. And actually 90% of the working world is, the 9-to-5 monotony of perhaps not doing something that you love as much as cricket, because ultimately it's a hobby that becomes a profession for 99% of the players that are playing. And at the time, I just didn't know. I saw Stephen Peters was the only gentleman that I spoke to. He was a sort of a famous psychologist. He's based up in Derbyshire, Chapel-on-Frith. He worked with Team Sky and Sir Dave Brailsford, and he was working for Liverpool at the time. And we went to a seminar down in London with Richard Gerver, who's associated with the club, had sorted out. And some of the things that he sort of said struck home. I didn't feel at the time. I'm a very rational person. I'm a very logical person. And grief and tragedy strikes people. It doesn't matter how strong you perceive you are, or there's no sort of journey of how somebody deals with it. It could be a year down the line, 2 years down the line, 2 minutes. I could do it on this interview. There's nothing that's, you can't control it, and neither, my experience is that you don't try and control it, just let it flow. And so I spoke to him, and he sort of gave me some poignant things at the time about my personality, and some things that if I can recognise in myself, and not necessarily change, but just appreciate throughout the process of grief and my family side of things, and they've definitely come to light, and I can definitely see what he was talking about at that point. You want to fight against it, is this to say no, but they definitely helped me, and when I finished, probably did everything hit me, because up until that point I thought of nothing else. So 2016 comes around, July I think it was when I finished, and all of a sudden you've been in that meeting and said, no, you're done. You're not going to play professional sport again. Your body's not up to it. And then really did the blinkers fall off in lots of different ways, to be honest. How much I'd put in to try and compensate. My ankle wasn't great, but I was trying my utmost physically and emotionally and mentally to try and compensate and still compete at that level. And my performances suggested that I couldn't do it. And that's how it sort of came to that tipping point of my ankle had sort of given up, and mentally I was sort of probably at a breaking point of that being the case, and perhaps knowing it myself, to be honest.
And was that always the case after you came back, that it was a struggle?
Yeah, but I didn't look at it as being that way, because I wanted to play so much, and it was just a management. You'd never go out there as a cricketer 100%. You've got niggles, bowlers, whatever it may be, feet or knees, or for wicket keepers it's hands, and but it was, in hindsight, how much it took out of me, sort of emotionally and mentally. Only did I realise when I finished, because I obviously invested so much to try and keep at that level. If I walked out there and I was 70%, I was having I needed to be 110% to be, to be worthy consistently of my place, which means I needed to make up the other 40% somehow. And I think latterly did I sort of realise and appreciate that. It'd be just managing it. I could find a way to manage it. And again, Jamie Pipe, the physio, who's also one of my closest friends now, we just worked flat out to manage it. But I can remember some days I'd wake up and I couldn't walk. I'd be on the pain scale of 10 being unbearable. I would be a 7. And by 11 a.m. I've got to go and keep 100 overs. But not at that point did I consider that I couldn't do it. But it was just a thing that, mentally you've got to get to that place to perform. And now I said when I saw the sports doc and he said you're lucky to be able to walk again, and now I'm not putting the stress into my ankle. I can see the restrictions that I've got, how lucky I was to even be able to do the things that I did after I finished. And you know, you always want to say, what if? You always want to run the parallel. If I had a life running next to me now that was parallel and the accident never happened, how things would have been different for me. I was naive to think that I could ever perform on the same amount of level with everything that had happened to me, because it's, you know, huge thing to happen, such a tragic experience. My father was, you know, I had the closest relationship anybody could have with their, you know, with their father, and I'm hugely grateful that I had that. You know, I had 100 lifetimes with my father. Some people don't even have a father or whatever. So that was, you know, I'm hugely appreciative of that. But to think that I could suck it up, go out there, perform, and do that was, you know, was probably a lot to ask. But I didn't think any different at the time. I thought I could do it. But you know, it is one of those what if things, and I can't look back at it now with any regrets or any malice, or because I ultimately can't do anything about it. I'm, you know, extremely grateful for the experiences that I had at Derbyshire. You know, personally, I scored 100, which is something nobody can ever take away from me in first-class cricket. Particularly when, you know, as I mentioned, the batting probably wasn't my strength, or something that probably held me back from playing higher. Yeah, and I won something which not many people have done at Derbyshire, really, and all the experiences that I've had, what cricket's given me, the life skills that it's given me now to transfer into the next career, and you know, I'm excited. It's exciting and daunting time for me now. Obviously, I'm transitioning into a different career, but the skills that you learn, you know, when I was a 17-year-old and I walked into a man's, you know, a high-pressured decision-making environment with guys that are 30 years old. I think if you try and translate that into a business environment, it's very unique. It's like putting a 17-year-old apprentice in a well-seasoned run business to offer, and he stands on a level, you know, playing field. I had a role in that team as the other 10 guys did to deliver for that, you know, for the team. Catch the balls, take the stump-ins and score and offer some runs if you can. And to do that as a 17-year-old in business, and I think it's given me a confidence, and you know, there's lots of different things, particularly playing under pressure, the ability to make decisions, the communication side of things, definitely have a translation to business.
So what career direction have you moved into now?
So after finishing, had a career-ending sort of package, which helps me transition because it was unexpected. I was in the team on the day, I was in the T20 team to play Worcestershire on the day that I found out. So I was in my kit ready to drive from the sports doctors to the game. And all of a sudden, bang, that's gone. Everything is then gone, I'm finished. So I then sort of took stock as to what direction I wanted to go in. And I followed finance for probably 7 or 8 years in terms of stocks and shares and funds and investment trusts and all these variety of vehicles. And actually, when I was at school, I had a place to do human biology at Loughborough, which I had an accepted place and scholarship for. But I don't know why I would have done that at the time. But obviously, that's what I was down to do. But I think economics was also a strength for me, and I think that's why I sort of moved into that finance world and thought that's where I wanted to be. So I tried to find the most streamlined path to get me a qualification, which was recognised and give me the foundation to kick on really and start my next chapter. So I'm doing a wealth management qualification. There's 3 exams in it. I'm 1 exam away from it now, and as I said, exciting and daunting. But you know, cricket's 1 chapter, just as professional sport is for anybody. I had a fantastic life and experience at that point in time. I'm 28 now, so it's a wonderful time to play, travel. I've travelled the world. You follow the sun, so you visit some lovely places. You know, now I'm ready to sort of transfer those skills into a new career and sort of have a fresh challenge and not put that to bed, but take everything from it, love it, and you know, today's a new day. I've got new challenges and I want to progress. And as much as I progressed in cricket, I always back myself academically. You know, and arguably, I think I could be a better businessman than I was a cricketer. But you know, we shall see.
Well, I wish you all the very best with all of that, Tom.
Thank you.
And then perhaps finally we could just move back to the cricket. And do you still have any involvement with cricket or with Derbyshire?
So I say, professionally, Derbyshire offered me a role when I finished, and as we were alluded to, I could have stayed in cricket, and I think I will be drawn back to cricket possibly at some point. Hopefully after I've got experience and I can blend the two worlds, and I'll never sort of write that off. So Simon, better watch it. No, but yeah, it's. I'm more involved in the recreational side of the game now. So Swarkston is my club now. I moved from London to Swarkston about 2010, and when you turn off sort of the professional side of it, no longer being paid, you haven't got that stress. It's almost like okay, I can take a different view on things, and particularly league cricket is something I'm passionate about. And now I've sort of been co-opted onto the committee, the executive committee for the Derbyshire County Cricket Leagues, and I want to try and influence recreational cricket for the better. The game's evolving so fast, not only in the professional side of things, but it's the translation of that down into the recreational side of the game and keeping it relevant and you know, with no disrespect, and it is male, stale and pale really is the administration of a lot of the leagues and the corporate governance of lots of different sides of cricket. And I think that has obviously constitutionally has its place for sure, but I think the game is evolving at such a pace that to keep it relevant, and you know, youngsters come up now, even from the time that I've finished or the time throughout my career, the game has changed so much, and unfortunately it's not at the top of the list at the moment, cricket, and that's sad for many reasons. And I just, in the Derbyshire point of view, I want it to be really vibrant. I think I'm well placed because I've played from under 10s, I've played in all the leagues, and if I can give a fresh perspective, and the rest can keep me, you know, the guys constitutionally can keep me in check, and I can sort of filter that down then as to how the players and the younger generation that are going to step up next can sort of influence the change and take the game where they want to take it, basically going forward. And I hope I can influence that. I'm very early in the experience of doing it, but I'm equally excited to help the next guy, or a Callum Broderick or a Niels Priestley, the guys that are coming through now, can showcase their skills on a Saturday, win games for the league clubs, get recognised, you know, winning games for the academy, and kick on really to the next professional career, because that's my experience. And as long as we can keep that sort of pathway and you know, seamless integration of the club, the cricket board, and the league going forward for Derbyshire, then that'd be it'd be a great thing for cricket in the county.
Well, Tom, thank you very much indeed for talking to me with such a frank and open interview. Thanks very much indeed.
Pleasure.